Welcome everyone. I'm Julius Francis, Head of Product Marketing for the WAN business here at Juniper Networks. Today, we are diving into a critical topic for businesses worldwide, the urgent need for WAN modernization. The reality is clear. The demands on enterprise networks are expanding at an unprecedented rate. This brings us to a critical question. Why is modernizing WAN infrastructure so essential right now? We are here to explore this question in detail with our own AE, the Executive Vice President and General Manager leading our WAN business. Welcome, AE. AE, how are current market dynamics shaping the demand for advanced networking solutions, particularly in the context of the AI era and increasing data traffic?
It's very interesting because when we first started with networks, there was always a human appetite for more and more bandwidth and more increase. And as applications and things grew, whether it was video and other applications, they started increasing it. But recently, with the advent of AI, learning and training, where huge amounts of data is being actually trained on models, the network requirements of them have suddenly skyrocketed to a much higher level than what it usually used to be. And it requires a network that is completely non-blocking so that this can actually have the AI training and the AI learning and the inferences go through so smoothly that it is necessary for us to look at that. The second aspect of it is when you build on AI, all of the GPUs that you use in AI are power hungry. Once they are power hungry, more and more power has to go into all of the systems that you build. So everybody has to be conscious of how you build sustainable architectures and network solutions that can actually be used all over the world, and also be cognizant of the CO2 emissions and the ability for us to actually have science-based targets to really reduce and make it more and more green as we move forward, because otherwise we'll just be consuming a lot more power, and it's also very expensive. That actually brings us to the third most important point, economic considerations. When you build these things, they're getting more and more expensive. They're not just getting expensive in terms of the capital equipment that you buy, but also expensive in terms of operating it. So we need to look at the total cost of ownership of building the network and operating it and make it a lot more cost effective across both a CapEx and an OpEx model in total.
AE, your insights bring us to a decisive point. WAN modernization is not merely beneficial, it is essential. So what are some of the key challenges that enterprises are facing with competitive solutions, especially regarding their WAN infrastructure?
Yeah, there are several things that actually happen when they have these solutions. First and foremost, if you have to upgrade your network more frequently because there is changing and growing needs, and many of those solutions which are not necessarily future-proofed, or architectures are changing to adapt to the newer environment and the changes, that causes a huge pain because you have to actually tear down networks or build shadow networks, switch over. All of these things cause disruptions in service and solutions. And in this case, we've actually seen some of the competitive equipment starting from 2008 change about 4 or 5 times where they had to switch architectures and build new things. Second, when you do these kind of changes, which are more intrusive, and you have to rip and replace, or you have to build a shadow, make before break kind of things, you're going to introduce operational risks and costs. When you switch over something, you're going to disrupt service, you're going to build a lot of unhappy customers, you're going to have backlashes, and some of these things also cost a lot of money because you might have to have a double bubble to do many of these things, right? Many vendors also give you a single silicon strategy. So they basically say one size fits all. And when they do that, what happens is when there is different use cases and different needs, you're trying to actually take a round peg and put it in a square hole or vice versa like that, and it doesn't necessarily fit. You just shoehorn it, and that creates a lot of problems. And it also gives them lack of flexibility and ability to actually adapt to the growing and changing needs.
That's wonderful, wonderful. But what you have described underscores that modernizing WAN goes beyond just simply keeping up with traffic demands. Selecting the right vendor for the transformational journey is crucial for the long-term operational success for the enterprises. So let's get into the next question on Juniper strategy and how we can help. So how do Juniper solutions based on modern platform and silicon differentiate themselves, and what value do they bring to our customers?
So, first and foremost, the biggest value which we talked about is longevity. If you really look at some of our customers who bought an MX router way back, 10, 12 years, 15 years, have been reusing it and adding new line cards and increasing the capacity. That way, they have longevity of the system. The second part of it is every time we build a new line card, we actually put a lot of thought into sustainability and power optimization. The newer line cards in an MX, for example, would use 75% or 74% lower power than the previous incarnation. So as you upgrade to these new technologies without changing the chassis or any of those cards right there, you're going to get a benefit of sustainability, and you're also going to have longevity. The second part of it is the silicon strategy. What we do is we actually build our own silicon, and we also use merchant silicon for certain use cases. The reason why we build our own silicon is our silicon is highly programmable and manages the scale and performance that needs for growing and changing demands. The programmability is so important. The classic example is when segment routing came into place, none of the competitive NPUs could actually handle segment routing. Our Trio, which was built 3-4 years before even segment routing was conceived, was the most scalable NPU that could handle segment routing, as a clear example of how our silicon is custom built and custom usable across all of the use cases of the growing needs, and we future-proof it as we build it. Last but not the least is automation and stability. We automate because it saves OpEx. It saves and makes things a lot more easier. We give a lot of APIs which are northbound. Customers can actually build tools, automation tools. We have our own automation story with Paragon that actually helps customers onboard devices, configure devices, and collect telemetry and observability, and build AI ops to actually manage and operate their networks in the most efficient manner.
I like the way you outlined the strategy. Our strategy is clearly anchored on 3 pillars: performance, sustainability, and automation. Thanks for connecting the dots on how these distinct values are crucial to addressing customer pains we talked about earlier. So let's get to the next question on why customers are switching to Juniper solutions and what value they experienced.
It is interesting. I'll give you an example. One of the service providers, when I actually met him, he said, "I love your MX." The reason why he said he loves the MX is if I had this is a true example. He said, if I had an MX in the closet and I had to dust it off and bring it back 5 years from now, plug it in and it powers on and it works, and I have a new application, I'm very confident it'll work. What it means is we build future-proofing, long-term stability, and reduce the disruption when they use Juniper solutions and products. So that is an important aspect of why, as people and customers who use us over the years, and some of them have been using these devices for 18 years, right? It's amazing what they do. Second, when you have this longevity and you're able to reuse all of these things, it actually preserves your investment. It is important because it saves you from disrupting the network, creating outages, which is also business critical for you, and you don't need to spend as much money as you move forward to meet the growing and changing demands. Last but not the least, we constantly focus on sustainability. This is where we bring in the edge, where we are not just socially responsible to reduce carbon emissions and use less power, but the fact it also pays back because Power costs have been going up the roof in the recent years. Energy costs in particular geographies like Europe and other places have gone up like multiple hundred times over the years. And this is a great way for them to actually be cost effective in what they do. So customers really love to use this. There's a great example of a high security government use case that we recently won. They took our best-selling MX recent product, the MX304. They loved the performance, they loved the sustainability, and they were able to actually build the security solutions and connect their WAN with the WAN 2X solutions that we have actually brought in. It's a great program for us to actually win this customer and win it big.
Thank you, AE. I think you mentioned WAN 2X. Let's get to that, because it's great to see customers are experiencing tangible results and that we are gaining significant momentum on that front. Before we conclude, one major concern for enterprises transitioning from an outdated competitive solution to modern network infrastructure is the potential complexity, cost, and risk associated with the migration. How does Juniper mitigate these challenges and smooth the transition process?
It's very important that we actually handle this well, because customers have a network that is running and it's providing services. The biggest challenge that they have in their mind is, when I switch from this to a more modern system, how quickly can I make it go up? How quickly can I migrate my services? How quickly can I get my customers onboarded onto this new network that I have? With all of these things, what we do is we provide you a WAN 2X program where this migration is a lot more smoother, easy, and seamless. First things first, you get the Paragon automation for free, which gives you capabilities to onboard our devices, configure our devices, and build out the network in a free, cost-effective manner for your operating costs. The second part of it that we do is config conversions. You take a competitive config, and we have capabilities with tools, automation, and in fact, we've even recently introduced the LLM connector, which actually has AI capabilities to convert configs with parameterization that makes it a lot easier for us to change from somebody else's config to a Juniper configuration that provides the same feature functionality that they would need to build their service. This makes it a lot more seamless and a lot more easier for them. Last but not the least, we also give them flexible service credits. This is equivalent to 20% of their purchase order that they can actually use for training purposes, for professional services, and other advanced training and other things that they can leverage this benefit from them. This is gaining a lot of momentum. Since we launched, we're seeing a lot of interest and a lot of customers coming to us to make this happen. And we've actually had a few migrations that proves to ourselves that we can actually do it a lot more seamlessly for the customers. That is a big win.
Thank you, AE. Our conversation today underscores a clear truth. WAN modernization is not just advantageous, it is essential. Enterprises that do not modernize their WAN infrastructure with the right vendor will find it difficult to match the speed of innovation, stability, scalability, and performance demanded today's digital landscape. At Juniper, we recognize these challenges, and we are dedicated to facilitating seamless and straightforward transition. We have crafted a comprehensive migration strategy away from aging competitor solutions that eliminates the typical friction points associated with such a transition. Thank you, AE, for such a fabulous discussion and for sharing your insights. And thank you for everyone for watching. For additional information, check out the links.